Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello everyone, B1B Flyer here, and now I've got a review of the 9 new plastic miniatures that you get in the 2 Catalyst Games box sets that are going to be releasing soon. I'm going to go in order from lightest to heaviest. I'm going to have pictures compared to previous iterations of the metal miniatures and plastic miniatures, and give you my thoughts and comparisons to what I think are the key issues, some of the things I like, some of the things I don't. First up, this is the new Sculpt Locust. I definitely like the idea that they kept the reverse articulated joints. It's got a nice antenna. If this was bent in your box, the hot water trick will help repair that. You just put it in hot water, and I'll have another video, a newer version of the video on how to do that coming up soon. There's a few spots here and there that have spots from the molding process, but overall the miniature scales well. It does have a couple of joints. I believe the arms are separate and the torso. So for those of you looking to mod or to reposition, or you like to magnetize the torsos to make them twist, this one will definitely be something you can do that with. It is one of the 2 miniatures that has a little sub attachment point underneath one of the legs. So again, using the hot water trick and some hot area knife, you can trim that off and you can actually have the foot raised up. And I'm sure if you wanted to cut the joint down in here and reposition the leg, you've got some reposability options with this particular model. So I'm really pleased with it. It's got some good detail for the machine guns. The cockpit looks pretty good. Some of the detail was kind of lost on the gun barrel a little bit, and I'll probably again have to go back and kind of bend. And it does have some flex. This is no different than the quality of the plastic from the second issue box. So removing mold lines and trimming up and things like that is not that difficult to do, especially if you're new to the hobby. Next, we've got the Commando. I really do like this repose compared to the previous versions of the much more kind of just bland and static look. The arm maybe could be a little higher. I don't know if that's maybe because mine was bent. I haven't tried to reposition this one, but again, it's, you know, you'd be able to kind of raise it up if you need to. There's a mold line running across the top of the head. That'll be a bit of a difficult one to deal with, but again, this one does look pretty good. The torso appears to be, again, separate, so you can twist it. The other issue I had with this one too is it's kind of got that pose where you're not sure which way is the front facing, so new players might want to put like a mark on the front of the hex base or kind of define that ahead of time. You know, he's looking over kind of that way and he's got one foot going this way, so that may be a little confusing to newer players. And then the critique I had overall on the missiles was that these are supposed to be SRMs and they look like LRM holes. They're pretty small. I wish the missile ports would have been a little bigger just to scale with the type of weapon that it would have been. Here's the Griffin. You've seen me have these painted up already. This one is a little interesting. I'm not a huge fan of the way it is cast. The torso is kind of hunched forward, kind of leaning over, and unfortunately it is all one piece. The legs are attached to the hip, cast at the hip, as well as the torso. So you really would have to kind of carefully cut in there to even move it. Again, it wouldn't be impossible. Maybe if you bend a little bit and kind of get them to stand up a little more upright. I think that this one had a little bit more opportunity to have a better pose. The arms are individually attached, so you can at least move those up a little bit, but that was my one complaint really about this one. Everything else on this cast really does look good. It had very few cast lines, very few things that need to be cleaned up. There's a couple spots on the feet, but overall the lines that it does have are pretty much on the corners, and it looks like they did try to keep a lot of that to where it wouldn't be noticed, especially for folks that maybe don't want to deal with modeling that way. Here's the Shadowhawk. This one has the widest and most dynamic stance. If you ever saw those old plastic kits you could get out of, I think they were out of like those little like coin operating machines, they had a nice wide foot distance there. So this one's kind of harkening back to that. Again, the missile port, I was a little disappointed this hole didn't get cast very well, but again, if you have a drill, you could probably take care of that, and that may vary depending on you know, when it was cast, or you know, your box set might not have that. I did have some flaws in the torso, the edge right here on the armor. It is kind of mangled a little bit. I'll probably have to actually do some green stuff work to fix that. When I got it, the barrel was bent about that far. All I did was dip it in some hot water, and it went back to almost perfectly straight, and I just had to give it a little bit of a nudge back to where it is. It seems to be better if you're familiar with Bones miniatures from Reaper. The quality seems to be better than that as far as maintaining its memory or its shape. So it looks like it was at least cast straight, and maybe it just got in the blister. It just kind of maybe got, you know, set one side to the other. So, or maybe it got hot. The flash on the back was a little bit excessive here as well around the jump jet ports. And then again, the waist is separate. The arms look to be separate. At least I think this arm is. I don't know about that one. You could cut it off. There was nice easy access to repose that. And it looks like maybe this one leg over here is separate. Yes, it looks like this leg is cast in with the hip. So again, I'm pleased with the ability to kind of change a few things, and then we'll have to see how I can kind of change stuff up if I decide to repose this with the leg positioning. Here's the Wolverine. This was my second least favorite based on just the overall quality. What happened is it looks like it's got a lot of flash, I mean excessive flash around the center of the armor here on the hip and groin area. Even on the skirts that go over the legs, there's a lot of excess flash. It just doesn't seem to be, it was out of all of them, it's the least clean as far as the appearance is concerned. It's only second to the last because I do have a defect on one of my miniatures. This is the other one that has the foot post, which, you know, if you take a blade and cut it down, you can take that out of there. Unfortunately, that'll take out the foot detail, so there won't be any of the tread on there if you cut it off and leave it posed that way. So that's a bit of a bummer, but, you know, if people are giving you garbage about the bottom of the foot of your mech, then maybe you need to find some new friends. It looks like everything else was fairly well done as far as the positioning is concerned. I did, you know, I have reposed the waist. This one is one piece, but again, you can cut that. On a previous version, I did cut that and make it more forward facing. The legs do appear to be separate as well, so there may be some options there. And it looks like, and the arms are definitely separate, so you can repose those. Here's the Catapult. I like that they left the missile tips on the actual casting. There's a little bit of loss of detail on the laser ports for such small holes. I wish those would have been a little bit larger to reflect the medium lasers. There's some flash, but it is on the outer edges, so it's fairly easy access to clean it up. The nice thing about this Catapult, the Catapult, is you have a joint at every single contact point. So anybody that wants to mod, reposition, they're going to have a good time with this one. Other than the ankles are still single piece, so the legs are just one whole piece. Every plastic Catapult I saw had the kind of the missile arms kind of tilted inward. That's probably from when they were assembling them, and they just kind of pinched them together, and it just ended up staying that way. But again, these are removable, and then warm water, you can easily get them back to however even or whatever it is that you decide to do with those. So I'm actually really pleased. I think that the Catapult scales the best out of the new sculpts as far as getting it right, because the Catapult casting previous sculpts have been all over the place. Thunderbolt, my second favorite of the new group of miniatures. I love the Thunderbolt. I'm a huge fan. I just like the way this model looks. It is just, you know, so much more detailed than the original Unseen version, and I like the fact that it doesn't have the more skinny legs. It looks like a 65-ton, big, heavy, I'm going to punch you in the face and shoot you all the way up until I do type of miniature. It does appeal to me as a more realistic representation of what would be a mech in the future, but if that's a thing. So I do like they kept the detail on the miniatures, missile ports here, the lasers. I wish these were the size of the lasers on the Catapult. That's something I wish they did have. The shoulder pads are separate. The arms, can't really tell on this one, but the right one is. The gun is separate on the right arm, so those of you that maybe want to put a different weapon configuration, you're going to be able to do that. The right leg is not. It's joined to the hip, but the left leg does. I can see glue right here, so it's going to be something you could remove if you want. And the missile launcher as well, I believe, it looks like it's separate. Pretty easy way to get up to the hip here if you need to try to turn them a little bit. But the flash, there's a little bit here on the missile launcher. That's going to be hard to get to without kind of moving things. And it does have these sprue cut points, it looks like, that don't quite didn't quite get a very clean cut. So I do like that they have kind of the unique separate armor baffle, although I need to look at the art and see. That may or may not be upside down, but I'm pretty sure it's not, but they're noticeably different, so I just need to look at the artwork and see if this is correct. Alright, here's my favorite out of all the new sculpts. The Awesome. It's big, it's mean. It is, I will say this, it is slightly larger, I think, as far as scale is concerned, than it probably should be. But that being said, it just looks really, I mean, to to be common with saying anything, the Awesome looks awesome. It really does it just exudes that 80-ton heavy armored up, you're not going to take me down without a big fight type of mech. So I'm really pleased with how they did this. The arms are actually separate. I actually pulled them out just to see what it would be. They're just glued in with a post, so it didn't take much effort to take those off. The hip is at the same joint. Interestingly, they took the armor that sits on top of the upper leg, and that is contoured to the lines of the center torso. So if you were to separate the legs, all these arm baffle assemblies would actually go with it. So as far as moving the legs around, that'll get a little more complicated because these, I guess would move, but it's going to create some interesting little joint problems up here if you try to move them around. But overall, I mean, the arms, like I saying, if you wanted to move them around a little bit, you could, and there'd just be a little bit of maybe gap that you'd have to fill. But I really like the way this one looks. I like the big armor panels, like the nice details. I got a little bit of a slip here. It looks like where the armor should have a recessed area and doesn't go all the way across. So I'll have to trim that away. There's a little bit of some discontinuity on the circular portion of the barrel here. It's more oval shaped, but it's got a round hole. So, but that being said, for what you get, I'm very pleased. I'm nitpicking at this point. Lastly, the Battlemaster. So this was my least favorite simply because it's got a flaw in it. And if you're looking at the right knee, you can see that this is some sort of, I don't know if it was like a double cast or if there was leftover from a previous miniature that was cast in the mold and it attached itself on, but basically he's got some sort of weird knee thing going on where it lost a lot of the detail, and it's obviously that's not correct. So if I were to get this box and they were available at retail right now, I would be saying, hey, I need a replacement. This one's obviously not up to the standard. So and it does have the same thing with the shoulder baffles. I know there was one that was missing one. Again, there's going to be some quality control. They can't be perfect, but once these are in full production, Catalyst Game Labs has assured that they'll take care of folks. You got the little clip points here where whoever's assembling them in the factory just did it quickly, get them glued, get them put together. The missile box looks like it's separate. The arms are definitely separate. The waist is not, and then the legs are, and I don't think they're separate. Or they do look like they're separate from the armor skirt. So this one you might have a little more opposability there. It looks like there's a decent amount of gap in there to kind of move them around and maybe change up the stance. So I do like the sculpt, don't get me wrong. It's just that of the models that I have in my possession right now, this one is the one that had the only flaw that was obviously a quality control flaw, not some sort of like, oh, they didn't sculpt it right or anything. There's some pretty heavy mold lines as well. I'm pretty sure I maybe just got one that just wasn't quite as good. But again, I'm not disappointed with the sculpt. I've already painted these up and worked on this model, and I do like it. I like the way it scales with the other miniatures next to it. So again, and then this was the one that was glued down. Obviously, its feet are facing on a hex edge, so a new player would have to either figure something out, mark this one down, but it'd be nice if they would have had it lined up straight, but not a huge deal. It's just some glue. And then I did want to talk about the plastic bases. So the previous versions of the plastic mechs had them basically, they were all cast with the base on them. I like that these are separate. I also like that these are a harder plastic. This is it's going to hold up. So if you want to repurpose these, or if you want to use them and just repose your miniatures, these are fine. And these have enough weight to the miniature where I almost would feel like it's no big deal having a full-size hex base on there without a little bit of a metal weight at the bottom. It doesn't mean that I won't necessarily do that, but I do like the option that there's a good quality hex base on here. It'd be nice if they were to start selling these separately, because I know there's a lot of folks that would like some hex bases like that, but I don't know. That remains to be seen. So overall, what you're getting if you order, or if you get the beginner box, you get a Wolverine and you get a Griffin. That retails for $20 MSRP. That means these are each 10 bucks a piece if you're buying it solely for the miniatures. That doesn't count for the fact that you're going to get a game that has all the other stuff you need to play, and you get the cardboard cutouts. So you could literally go buy the box set just for the miniatures, and then hand the box set to your buddy who's never played Battletech before, and they could try it out. Or you could, I mean, it's an easy way to get what you want and to spread the hobby. I really like what Catalyst is doing with that beginner box set. And then for the actual new box set total, you get the 8 miniatures. You just don't get the Griffin. And then at MSRP of $60, you're looking at about $7.50 US for these 4 a piece. So much about half the price of what most metal mechs are going to run right now, because they're between 12 to 15 for the most of them, for the bigger ones, smaller ones obviously, but that's just I'm just averaging out there, quick math. But again, $7.50 for 8 miniatures. You have a full rules and full box set with 9 punch outs for the in the main box set, which again, you could say, hey man, you've never tried this game out, give this a shot, and they can play that on a board game night and try it out, and they may enjoy it, and then they may decide they want to go and buy more Battletech material, which again helps the hobby. And so again, I think Catalyst Game Labs is definitely headed in the right direction with what they're doing on these 2 box sets, and I really hope they do take off, and it encourages them to make more box sets so that we can obviously get more miniatures, because that's what I'm a huge fan of. So again, this is a great set overall. It does have some flaws. It's not perfect, but we're not paying $20 to $30 a piece for some, a single miniature or just a couple of miniatures. I think it's a great value. It's a great way to get interest for new players, and to appease a lot of the older players that want some of the new sculpts that haven't been around for a long time. And if this enables us to get the now no longer unseen miniatures produced and they show up in the retail stores, it's a win for everyone. I think it's a good thing. You can't please everyone with every single aspect of each box set. They know that. That's fine. They're trying to appeal to as many as possible, and I think that's a solid move on their part, especially with the limited releases that they're going to be able to do right now, because it looks like they're just feeling things out to see what kind of response is going to be to this box set. So thanks for watching. Post your comments and questions below. Follow us on Facebook at Camo Specs Online, and we will see you next time.
Shutdown sequence initiated.